know within the horror community, we like to clown on films that overuse the jump scare trope. I agree that it absolutely can be overused to the point where it's annoying and exhausting. But there have been moments in horror that have utilized the jump scare so effectively that I genuinely think my heart stopped for a couple of seconds. And it's happened so often, I feel like it's a little bit concerning. So in no particular order, here are 8 jump scare moments from horror movies that made my soul leave my fucking body. I'm gonna start with the end of a movie, the final scene in Paranormal Activity. It's probably the least jump scary one on this list, but my body couldn't tell the difference, honestly. It's right after Katie throws Mika into the camera, and then being possessed, Katie goes like full demon face and lunges at the camera right before the film cuts to black. That scene was so effective only because of all of the tension that was built up throughout the movie. My nerves were pulled so tight to the point of breaking by the time this ending sequence started. So I'm not exaggerating when I say my friend and I, who went to go see this movie together, immediately got up and ran out of the theater before the credits even started rolling. I didn't even see the credits of this movie until I watched it later on streaming. Next is the tall man jump scare in It Follows. And this particular scene is when Jay is hiding in her room from the tall man, and her friends open the door and we see him walking up out of the darkened hallway. Surprisingly effective considering this is not the first time we've seen the tall man character, and they don't use a musical sting or anything in this scene, which is again surprising how effective it is. It really shows in this movie how haunted Jay and only Jay is by this entity. And it makes it more scary because we now kind of confirm that only Jay can see this. I loved / hated every single second of this scene. I'm sure when you clicked on this video, you were hoping this movie was gonna be mentioned. I'm here to deliver. The Exorcist 3 has a brilliantly crafted and executed jump scare scene. And I know you guys all know which scene it is. It's the nurse scene. This is, if I had to pick, definitely like top 3 best uses of a jump scare in a movie ever, I think. Long shot down the hallway, like kind of separating us from the action, paired with the people we see milling about behind the nurse. Kind of gives you a false sense of security. You have that wicked zoom in with the shears and just shit, man. Then they cut to the statue that doesn't have a head, electing to not show us any of the violence, but giving us the very real implication of what happens to the nurse at the end of that scene. And I still get nervous watching that scene, even though I know what's coming. Okay, so the Babadook. The scene I'm gonna talk about isn't technically a jump scare if we're working with like the traditional definition of a jump scare, which has the visual element and the auditory element. It's the scene where Amelia is trying to sleep and she like senses the presence of something in the room. So she hides under the covers and we hear this. And the reason I'm including this is because of the first time I watched this film. I watched it on my laptop with noise-canceling headphones in. And when that sound happens, it's like the sound of it just kind of like entered in through my ears and traveled all the way down and just like squeezed my heart, like frozen for a second. I screamed aloud, ripped my headphones out of my ears, and then I had to like pause the movie and take a 15-minute break because it scared me so bad. It's like kind of the reaction you would expect from a jump scare, so I included it on this list. All right, next is the scene from Hereditary. Again, you probably know which one I'm talking about. It's where Annie is fully possessed at this point and she chases Peter through the house. The scene starts where she's like crawling along the walls and Peter has found his father, and then he's staring into this darkened doorway and we kind of see something there but we can't really tell, and then Annie just comes like peeling out of another corner of the room and chases Peter into the attic. It's like all of my fears of like darkened rooms, darkened hallways, darkened doorways were realized in that moment. Like when I saw that scene, I'm like, that's the absolute scariest thing I think that could have happened. It freaks me out every time I rewatch the movie. All right, next is surprisingly from Lake Mungo. And if you've seen Lake Mungo, you know that this is the one and only jump scare in the entire film. And it's specifically the footage from Alice's phone. So it's the combination of the image of this obviously dead face, very disturbing to see, you know, because at that point the footage is paused so we can really see what the camera is showing us. And then it's almost like they hit fast forward on it really fast and the image just kind of comes at you. Honestly, it's a cheap kind of scare at its core, let's be honest. But it's the build up, it's everything else around it that makes it a brilliant jump scare. But by that point in the movie, in Lake Mungo, I was at a similar point, like I mentioned with Paranormal Activity, where I was just like a bundle of nerves because of the tension. So by the time that happens, it just got me good. Like, anything could have happened and I probably would have screamed. All right, so The Grudge. I'm gonna show the clip from the American remake because that's the one I watched first. But I've talked about this bed scene before. It's just such a good scare. It's a really good scare. Deliberate play on that childhood notion that everything will be fine if you just hide under the blankets. It's so messed up that they did that to us. Like, they gave us that false sense of security that she was gonna be okay. And then you see that face underneath the covers and she's dragged under and then we see nothing. Like, she's just disappeared. It's so fucking scary. Jump scare was kind of like a ticking time bomb. Like, it just got implanted in my brain and it didn't really go off until it was time for me to go to bed, and I could not bring myself to sleep under the covers after that. All right, next I have to mention the hide and clap scene from The Conjuring. So simple and so effective. Once the scene starts and Carolyn is kind of like following the sounds of the clapping throughout the house, like, we have an idea of what the scare is that's coming up. It's just a matter of when. So the tension building is there within that sequence. And then we kind of have that moment of release where she's pushed down the basement stairs and we kind of think that's the end of the sequence. That's the scary thing that's gonna happen. Then we have the hands appearing out of the darkness, just clear as day right next to her face. And it's so effective. And it's such a good answer to the beginning of that sequence, which started with the disembodied hands clapping throughout the house that Carolyn was chasing. So it's like a really good call and answer kind of scene. And finally, I have to mention the clown scare from Hell House LLC. I love this part of the movie, not only because it's really terrifying, but it's like a turning point in the film. So like, up until this moment, just we've had like a little bit of tension building, maybe some slightly spooky things happening, but nothing like outright, yes, there is something wrong with this place, yes, it is haunted. And we know the clown mannequin is scary. They set that up really well. The simple swivel of the camera from the clown to the basement stairs, back to the clown that's now looking right into the camera at us. Like, when I say I nearly shit my pants, I probably would have died of fright if that really happened to me. And it's proof that the simplest scares are usually the most effective. I know there are really good jump scare scenes that I missed, so please share them in the comments below. Tell me what your favorite jump scare moments are, the ones that got you really good. It's okay to admit it. This is a safe place. I was just talking about Hell House LLC. The franchise recently had a new movie come out at the end of 2023, and I did an entire franchise ranking, which you can watch here if you liked this video. And I will be back next week with a new video. Until then, stay strange. Bye.